Happy Friday and welcome to I Am Your Target Demographic. Welcome to our weekly roundup where we talk about things that happened this past week in pop culture and discuss. Today we really only have one big topic, and that is we're going to talk about House of the Dragon, totally full of spoilers. If you want spoiler free, you can head over to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a spoiler free review up. Just look up IAYTD. But today we're going to dive into spoilers and really talk about what at least I liked and didn't like about this first season. So let's get straight into it. I think pretty much everyone would agree that Game of Thrones ended on a very weird note. Some people were okay with it, but I don't think many people were excited about the way that it ended. So a few years later, when they announced House of the Dragon, people were maybe hesitant. Would this show be able to recapture the magic, from the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones when it was really in its heyday? Could it recapture that? Well, the answer is yes, mostly. So what I liked about House of the Dragon is that it reminded me of the best parts of Game of Thrones. That Game of Thrones, there were those moments, the end of season 1, when Ned Stark is beheaded, and you're like, they can do that? They can kill these characters? Moments like that, in House of the Dragon, we're getting every few episodes. Now, part of that is due to the unique structure of these time jumps, where each episode leaps to the next kind of big important milestone, which is a plus and a minus. The plus is that it jumps to these big exciting moments. Okay, so every episode is a highlight reel of this incredible thing happened. Next week, this incredible thing happened. But why it's a minus is that we don't get that time with the characters in between, so that sometimes these big moments lack the punch that really they should have. We cared about Ned Stark. We had a whole season with him before he was killed, so it meant something. I didn't feel the same sort of impact when characters were killed in House of the Dragon. I mean, a good example is Laena, who we see first as like a 12-year-old or younger, and then we see a little older, and then a little older, and then she dies. So we have, I think, 3 different actresses at different points in her life, and then her death, you're kind of like it doesn't really have the punch, and you don't really get to connect with her that much. And there's many other characters like that. Lord Strong, who is the father of some of Rhaenyra's kids, we see quickly for an episode, and then the next episode he dies. So not a lot of punch, right? I think this is an exciting show because it's leaping to those milestones, but it's missing out on the character development that Game of Thrones really flourished in, that you would have seasons before the Red Wedding. And so everyone that was killed at that wedding, it was a big deal. Here, you have an episode with someone and then they die. So it just doesn't have the same sort of impact, but it is definitely exciting and definitely faster paced than the original Game of Thrones. So it's a give and a take. Other things that I really enjoyed, I am a huge fan of dragons. So I am definitely the target demographic for this show. There are so many, and it's almost more than you can keep track of. Because I'm constantly losing track of, wait, okay, so which dragon is that? Or who's, like that one I think was red and had horns. This one is brown. You lose track. There's so many. But it's very exciting, and it kind of culminates in this incredible final episode where the largest dragon that lives is hunting this little itty bitty dragon and this little kid, and it is terrifying and ends in a really gruesome way, which is, I think, just a tease of what's going to happen. They even do a thing in the last episode where they say, here's all the dragons that we know about, dragons we're going to find and capture and we're going to give riders to. That the next couple seasons are going to be a war of dragons, right? They call this the Dance of the Dragons. And so I think we're getting ready to see some incredible action, some really scary intense moments and fight sequences and action with these dragons, and that is just incredibly exciting. I already talked about the time jumps a little bit. The biggest one that really happens is when our lead characters, Alicent and Rhaenyra, change actresses. And I think there was a lot of hubbub at the time because people had really gotten to enjoy those two younger characters. But I want to say, now that we're kind of through season one, I think they nailed it. I think they look, especially Alicent, looks incredibly alike. But I think both of them nail the same personality traits, the way they act, the way they carry themselves. So I think that casting was brilliant. The other aging up, I didn't really feel like Laenor, and really Laena too, didn't really feel like the same character, which again makes you distant from that character. When they change Laenor's actor, and then he supposedly dies, we know he doesn't die, you just don't really feel much. Where at least Rhaenyra and Alicent, they changed actors about halfway through, and then we get quite a few episodes with the older actors to kind of re-engage with them and really decide, okay, I'm in. And so I think they nailed it, and I'm excited that the cast is pretty solid now. I don't think we're going to get any more time jumps, at least for a while. So I think we're good for a while. So in a nutshell, I think it was a great season. I think it was a great first season, but it was not the best. It was not a 5 out of 5 for me. I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5, just because I think it lacked the momentum to make some of those big moments pay off. It was very exciting, but you often didn't have context for who the characters were. You often didn't really feel attached to the characters that big things were happening to. And so it just took it down a little bit. But now that the cast is solid and we're keeping with them, and there's a lot of big moments left to come, I think the next seasons are going to be even better, and plenty more dragons. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. So I think this can easily dethrone Game of Thrones if it manages to keep up the momentum, deliver an exceptional climax, and then end on a high note. I think this will be the superior show. Just because Game of Thrones was slow, it took a long time for things to happen, and then the last couple seasons really lost people. So if House of the Dragon can correct those mistakes, I think it can easily become the better show. So now, down in the comments, I want you to tell me what you thought of House of the Dragon. What did you like most? Favorite moments? What are you excited for? Give me your thoughts. And then next week on our weekly roundup, I am still very early into Gotham Knights. I'm obsessed with Marvel Snap. And so we'll probably talk about some games next week to kind of let you know Marvel Snap, especially, is a free-to-play mobile game. So we'll talk a little bit about that and if you should give it the time of day, give it a chance. So thanks for watching this little experiment of mine to do weekly shows, and we'll see you next week.